I just wanted to dive right into it. You're somebody I'm so glad we could sit down and do this. I've been a fan for a long time, and
Oh yeah.
you're such a veteran of our scene, and I think you have a unique opportunity, or sorry, not opportunity, experience of kind of witnessing multiple eras of electronic music in the States. And I know you came up in Washington, D.C., and then eventually moved to New York City. And I had the opportunity to interview guys like Harry Romero, who also had a lot of New York experience in the '90s. And I'm wondering if you could just tell us about how you first discovered electronic music, whether that was in DC or after your move, and then just what that scene was like in New York.
Yeah, it was after I moved to New York. Like right after. I mean, like I moved up there for school, and I was just like, I think I was like hanging outside my dorm room and or like outside of the dorms, and these girls walked out and like, oh, we're going to this party down the street. You want to come? And I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? um, and I was like, oh, sweet, and I went in there, and I was like a super big like music fan and stuff before like that, playing in bands and stuff. But I walked in there and it was like what I had been kind of looking for, like for a long time. And I actually like went to like this like all ages club in Delaware on like in the beach, like in a beach town called Rehoboth, that was like there for like 1 year, and they were actually playing like electronic music. And this was like, I would say like 96 or 97 then. And that was like kind of like my first taste, but I had that taste and I never knew where it was like after that. So like when I like I think went back and I found like that, I went to that party and in New York City, it was like, this is what I was like trying to find again. And it just felt like, this is it. This is the music I've been trying to find for a long time. And I just didn't know how to like find it. But I think at that first party, it was I'm pretty sure a Chocolate City party, and it was like Onions and Joeski and gosh, I can't remember the other guys who were in there, but yeah, definitely those two guys. Josie's still killing it these days too. So you know, and once I had that moment, I was just like, what's going on next weekend? Like, where's the next party? And yeah, and it was just like a music, electronic music education and there in New York City, and I was like, listen to house music. There was like jungle, and jungle was just like, exploding. And that's what really kind of like, I gravitated towards jungle at first. And it was like Diesel Boy and DJ Dara and stuff. But and that's like, that's where I kind of started. Like, I was like, I got to start playing music. I want to DJ. I need to learn how to do this. But yeah, that was like my main focus. But I was going out to everything. Like Sash and Digweed were doing like their residency at a club called Twilo, which was like amazing. It just, just going out a lot and seeing like just, like that era of like electronic music, which was just like amazing. Like I learned so much. I listened to like so much like different stuff, and it was amazing, like looking back on it, like in that era.
Yeah, absolutely. That the Sasha Digweed Twilo residency is crazy. I think when people learn about it, it's like these guys are still headlining, any room they want, and for them to be doing it so long. And I've, so many people talk about that as like, it was such an experience. And, they're bringing Carl Cox in before people knew who he was in the States. I know that you went out West, but I'm just curious, it seems like when I talk to people about this era, it feels like that was kind of the golden era for New York. And then maybe it dipped down a little bit. What do you feel about just how that scene in New York has grown and developed over the years, whether for better or worse?
Yeah, it's a little hard for me to say because like I moved out of there 2000, 2000 around like 2000, yeah, 2001. And I don't know, yeah, it seemed like the like there was like a dip in like popularity in like the parties that were happening around that time. And I actually like moved back down to DC, and there was a lot of like stuff going on, like prior to when I had moved there. There was like big, like massive, raves going on, massives back then, as they were called, and multiple rooms, like giant acts, and that just seemed to like not be there like when I moved back as much. And I loved the music, and I wanted to, I don't know, I wanted to like, do it. And so like, I, came out to San Francisco and visited, and I saw like what was happening, like the vibrancy of like the scene here. And that just like was like, okay, I need to move there. Like it's going on there. This music's gonna come. I was like, I know this music's like, it's got a hold of me, and like the scene here is like just super like homegrown, just DIY, like, and everybody kind of knew each other, and it was really cool. But I mean, going back to New York, I kind of fell, out of like touch with what was going on there, like, for probably like my first like 5 years out here, until I started like getting on the road myself and DJing, and Dirtybird started doing its thing, and it seemed to change. I don't know. I mean, it was definitely different like when I went back, and I don't know. I don't know where it went. It's kind of hard for me to like to say how like New York like transitioned and went through like during that era, because I wasn't there.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I think probably a lot of factors. I know some people I've talked to have spoken about how just the EDM boom kind of sucked some of the life out of it. And now we're seeing a return with some really great venues, but there's still a ways to go. Obviously, you just mentioned it, the Dirtybird squad. I don't know how soon after you went out west you met them, but you linked up kind of quickly with Justin and Christian Martin and then Barclay. I'm wondering if you could just tell us, like, how did you meet? And when you guys first started throwing parties, I mean, did you have any idea it was going to turn into this thing?
Well, Justin and I met in New York City. We were, I think it was there that first night I went out to like a club, so yeah, I mean, we met in college, and I got turntables, and we would just we'd go record shopping together, and we'd buy like drum and bass records, and we'd go back and we'd just play records like in my dorm room, and we'd sit there and just kind of imagine that we were like in front of a big crowd, pretending like we were at Twilo, and having drinking like 40s and smoking some weed and kind of doing our thing. And but yeah, and Justin moved out to San Francisco halfway through, and that's the reason why I came out here. He's like, oh, you should come out here, things are going on. And yeah, it wasn't like, I moved out and I met his brother and Barkley, I don't know, probably within like the first month or two, and just knew them. And then we did, Christian was like, I'm gonna buy a sound system and let's throw a party. And it was the four of us, and we were just like, fuck, hell yeah, let's do that. We got inspired by Sunset Crew out here, which they're pretty legendary. They've been, I don't know, I don't know when they started, but sometime in the 90s. And we kind of like followed what they had done a little bit with free parties and stuff. And but yeah, we had those first couple of parties, and there was like, I don't know, 20 people, maybe 50 people at it, and in the park. And I mean, I don't think any of us had any idea like it would get to where it is today, with like a giant festival and parties all over the world. And I mean, but it was super exciting just to like have like our own like little party. And we took it indoors, and we started doing some club nights, and just started organically building, and started to get more and more popular, and people started coming. And I mean, even like when it was doing like good, I never thought I would get to this level,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something that obviously evolved out of that was the label side, which, you had involvement in, and then obviously your own label, Anabatic. I'm just wondering, over the years, what kind of developments have you seen in like the music that you receive to A&R, whether it's a wider range of people, a wider range of styles, higher quality? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like the quality music got better. I mean, with my label, I was always kind of like really looking out for like the new, somebody new, like making something cool and really trying to like, I don't know, give somebody a chance to like put out something for the first time. That was always like a pleasure of mine to like give that like opportunity to somebody. Um, but yeah, definitely the music got better. It got different. I mean, I wasn't, when I started my label, I just thought it was going to be someplace for me to like just put out my own music. And then I started getting some demos in and they were cool and I liked them. And I was like, well, I guess I should start putting out some other music. And yeah, and it kind of just like, it was very organic the way it like kind of like went from there. And yeah, and I mean, I started just like so I could control like, putting out my own music and not having to like wait, to put out a record on like a different label and have to wait like months and months and months. And I was just like, oh, I can put out like a record next week if I wanted to, or even today, almost. So, but yeah, I mean, it was like really cool just to like watch everything just build and build and build. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's always interesting for me to talk to people who were kind of doing the artist driven label, starting way back in the day, because now everybody has one. And I think there can be some redundancy and, just kind of on the label side, whether it's with releasing music or the live performance, this world has unfortunately over the years, become pretty like white male dominated. And when you look at a brand like Dirtybird, they seem to generally be at the forefront, of inclusion and diversity in regards to like the artists that they're representing and putting out. Are there any other labels out there that, you're feeling like do a good job of this? And big picture, what do you think kind of needs to be continuing to change in order to improve this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the narrative like really being out there, like for labels to be way more inclusive and try and get a lot more female artists and gender diverse artists. So but yeah, I think Dirtybird's definitely been trying to like really push that lately. I really see it like with their lineups and the artists who are getting involved. I mean, there's like super inclusive labels like he, she, they, which is just all about like gender diversity within their label. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's really awesome to see this kind of like awakening of just like, yes, we need to like, get more women involved. Because I mean, it's like really crazy. You definitely see a lot of lineups still where it's just a bunch of guys, and it feels weird to be like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just like I know I was one of them, and it's like, but I always wanted like to see more girls on the lineup, and they always like slay, and so it's awesome to see this kind of like shift and what's happening in the music scene, and it's not even just in electronic music; it's like in I think the broader like whole like music world in general, or just like realizing that like there's a lot of like very very talented people being left out of the picture because they're not a certain gender and they don't fit into like this little club of people. So yeah, it's an awesome time to be involved in the music scene and seeing this shift. I mean, there's always been girls involved, but I don't know, like it's always been like so hard for girls to get there because they're not a guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean, look, as you mentioned it, obviously, I would love to get into your personal story if that's all right. I think it's something you've been really vocal about, and just your transition to being transgender and that realization. And, I obviously can't relate on a personal level, but I just obviously want to say congratulations. I think it's probably very relieving for you to feel true to yourself. And, I know the pandemic for you was kind of a time when you were able to really understand who you were and try and take those first steps. So I was wondering if you could just tell us about kind of this period in your life right now and when you first knew, and what pushed you to really take that step. And I know it also is going into the music for you as well, and you're rebranding your project and trying to take in a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of like, it kind of like became really obvious that like something was just not right in my life. Like, I don't know, probably like 6 or 7 years ago, I was like, I just had this like just feeling of just like there's something going on that's not, normal with me. I don't know what it is. Like I'm being held back. Like I really just I didn't know what it was. I don't know if like there was some kind of like, you know, just like a normal like traumatic event that happened to me, or something happened to me in my past that I didn't know about, and I couldn't figure it out. And yeah, the pandemic really kind of gave me this opportunity to like, I guess, sit with myself more and explore myself. And I don't know, it's like kind of like being locked up and being with myself. I guess really kind of gave me the strength to explore my dressing up. I had done it always in private, and it all of a sudden it was like I felt like I needed to like share this with somebody who was like, which happened to be my ex-wife. And I finally confessed that like I've been getting dressed up for like our entire marriage. And because of her, like she said, after I told her how long I've been doing it for and how this has been going on my like pretty much like my entire like life, she mentioned to me, it's like, I think there's a possibility you might be like transgender. And that was kind of just like all I needed to hear, really. And I was just like, oh my God, that makes so much freaking sense. Yeah, I mean, I looked back on I mean, at first I was like, no way, no way, no way. But I started looking back, and it was like just this skyscraper was built of just like all these moments. And um yeah, I really just was like, I'm pretty sure this is what's been going on. And like I felt it. And deep down, I was scared as shit. But I was also like, I think I need to like start transitioning. I'm going to go on HRT, and I'm going to see, how I feel, if it starts making me feel better. And it has. It's like the second I started, um, you know, coming out to friends and family, like I got so much lighter. I got so much happier. It's like every step I took along the way has just been like freeing. I just feel better. I I don't know. It's such like the craziest experience, because I look back and I'm like, how how did I live like that for so long? It was like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it was kind of like I was living like in like a really dark cloud, like a dark cloud was like around me. And I could kind of I would say like 25% of me would come through it. And but I had no idea like I was living like that. To me, it was just normal, because that's the way I had been living probably since I was, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that. So that became like normal. So like um I didn't know any different. So like, other than like just having eventually feeling like there's something off and there's something wrong. Um, and so yeah, it's it's been crazy. It's been the craziest journey so far. And um, and I'm still letting it go, like a lot of the repression and hard feelings and fear of like, being transgender. I still have a bit of it, and I still fight with it a little bit. Um, at times it pops in my head, because that was part of it, just being afraid to be myself, Um, so, I mean, at this point, I feel really, really happy, like have made it this far in my transition. And I see myself more every day, and I'm feeling a lot more free to be myself, as like I see myself in the mirror more and
Yeah,
see less of like that person I was before.
that's great. I mean, do you have any advice to kind of anyone out there that might be going through some similar struggle, or even if it's not about being transgender, just, any complications with their identity?
Yeah. I mean, I would say just to be gentle with yourself in the process and allow yourself to explore even those things that like seem so scary and seem maybe, out of the norm, like for society, because a lot of those like feelings and stuff, a lot of people really don't push that on you. Like when I came out, like I thought everybody was gonna like hate me and just like be like, oh, you're I don't know, that's too crazy, like what are you thinking, but most people, for me, like I had like this story in my head that like I couldn't do this, or like it was gonna be, really bad. And exploring yourself is like one of the best things you can do. And I think everybody, for the most part, really wants somebody to just be themselves and be happy and be their authentic self, like whatever that is, whatever, whatever you end up at, wherever you end up being, and just like, yeah, be confident to explore, and yeah, just be gentle with yourself and don't be hard on yourself, because it's a process, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think when it comes to the music, you have always had such a diverse taste in selection and production, and I don't think that I don't think I could sit here and be like, your sound is tech house or it's house. Like, that's, you've always done a little bit of everything. But for you with this, rebranding yourself and going forward, what is that going to look like for you, from a music perspective?
I'm still like really kind of like figuring it out, like where my music like lands. I mean, I've been making like some like pretty different stuff. I've had like kind of like this like more like techno-y, but like diva like vocal like song that I did for that's gonna come out in He She They. But then I also have this like Dirtybird song that's kind of like a bit like more, it's a bit more big room, but it has this like, really big breakdown and talks about, loving yourself and like giving yourself, just kind of like giving yourself a hug almost. Um, and then I've like been making some, I don't know, like really kind of like some melodic stuff and some like deeper kind of tech housey stuff. And I'm just really open to like exploring at this point. I don't know. There's like a song I was working on, like, or idea, like started coming together like last night. That's like this crazy like build up, and then it's like super ravey. I'm just like, where did this come from? And I'm just like trying to like take down all these like barriers and just, let myself explore and like really just like be with the music more. And I mean, in the past, I've been like so just hyper critical of my music and like thinking it's like good enough and comparing myself too much to like other people. I'm trying to like let those aspects of myself kind of go and just be like happy with that. Like, yeah, like you just be happy with like the song you make, like, and do your best and don't compare and just have fun with it. And it's starting to happen, and it feels good with the creation part of it, and also with my DJing side. I think it's just like really, I've gotten really open, and my DJ sets really are connecting, I feel like, with people a lot more than maybe they were in the past. And I think that's because I'm like finally like, in front of the people, and like I'm actually like there for once, and I'm not
Yeah.
like partially there. I think before I was really, there was kind of like a wall in front of me that like kind of like tried to connect with the audience, but I really wasn't. thought it was, but now I just feel this is like, I don't know, give and take from both sides in a different way. And I don't know, it's like, it's crazy. Like the music selection I've been like doing like in my sets. I never really plan out my sets. I kind of have an idea of like the songs. I don't know what order they're going to go in, and things will pop in my head and I'll bring them in. But somehow like it's all like kind of like flowing smoothly in some weird way. And I don't know if it's just like from all the years and years and years and years of you know, DJing and or like, and I think it's a bit of both, you know, just like finding myself finally being confident to like stand in front of people and just be myself and have confidence in like my track selection and not like really second guess what I'm doing as much.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure, you know, when you're on stage now and you feel like I'm really me, you know, that's a very freeing feeling. I also wonder, you know, you were really, really active during kind of peak pandemic time with all the streaming and everything. Did that give you an opportunity to kind of experiment with music that, you know, maybe you wouldn't have normally because you're just playing out every week to a chat room?
Yeah. Oh my God, for sure. Like I loved it. Like I went back and you know, pulled out like a lot of like old songs that I hadn't played. And it was also just going into like a lot of different you know, genres that that I hadn't played, and played like a lot of like, you know, I bring my sets like kind of like together, be like very melodic at first and chill, and then I'd kind of get into some like some crazier, you know, Dirtybird maybe style tracks and, you know, tech housey stuff, and then I'd like bring it down and get like super heady with it at the end. And I don't know, play some like super beautiful music that like I probably wouldn't have played before. And I've actually now been like, oh, I can totally play this, like, and it will work, you know. Like, I mean, I think that like experimentation with the streaming definitely also affected my DJing immensely as well. Like all these kind of like maybe three factors coming together, just kind of like, yeah, setting me up for like being more unique in what I do.
Absolutely. You know, something you mentioned earlier, like drum and bass, and I know you've talked kind of recently about breakbeats and that kind of stuff. And, you know, Justin Martin like always has some drum and bass in his sets. And
Yeah.
The Barclay Crenshaw project is, I mean, that's a whole monster of its own. And
Yes.
I'm just wondering, you know, I think it's a sound that is becoming increasingly popular. You know, you're starting to hear it at like main stage sets. What is it, do you think, about, you know, that, I know it's not the same thing, but the drum and bass, the break beats, like what is it about it that is just so invigorating?
I don't know. I mean, there's something about the like speed of it, I guess, and just like the bounce. It's like a bouncy sound. You're like moving around a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's like it's definitely like, you know, had its like big like moment like back in those like late 90s, early 2000s, and it kind of like it's just there. And it's definitely kind of just like had this like slow like rise up again, like after like so many years. And I mean, I've played it like in some of like on like when I was doing like the Twitch streaming, I definitely had a couple nights where I just pulled out like some drum and bass and just had a lot of fun, like,
Yeah,
you know, playing it. And I mean, and it's been cool. I mean, like, yeah, like when I was like on Holy Ship like years ago, like a couple times, there was always like a big like drum and bass like session, like one of the nights, you know, we would come in and, you know, drop a couple tracks. It was really fun. And yeah, it's cool that it's never, that it's just it's here and it's kind of growing. And I don't know, yeah, it's just it's fun, and it's like it's energetic in a really good way, and it still works, you know, after all these years, you know.
absolutely. Just last thing I want to ask you wrapping up here is if there are any, you know, up and coming artists or artists that you think you just have to give a shout out to, people you're really loving recently.
Oh, I always like draw blanks when it comes to these
I
kind of
know
questions.
it's an unfair question.
I hate it because there's like so many. I'm just like, who was that like artist? I'm like horrible like about like remembering artist names too, like especially
You
like
can shout out your friends if you want.
yeah. I mean, like Kevin Knapp's like doing a great job. I'm like super proud of him, and uh, it's been really awesome to watch him like come into his own as an artist. And I've known him for so long before he was just starting off. Gosh, who else? I'm just gonna like draw a blank here. I don't know why. Whenever I get this question, I'm just like, what? I'm like, wait, let me pull out my like USB stick and see who I'm playing.
Well, Kevin Knapp's a great answer. Plumped. I mean, he's killing it.
Yeah, I mean, who else? Oh, like DJ Longstocking. Like, she's like a good friend of mine, and she's doing some like really cool music. Yeah, Vanessa. It's been awesome watching her blow up and get like really big. And who else was it? Like Kasima, maybe? Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, she's doing some cool stuff too. And Baby Wait, I'm pretty excited to see where she goes with her music. And I don't know. It's like, who am I gonna forget? So I'm trying to shout out like the girls too.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll find the answer by seeing you live and Shazamming all the best tracks.
Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely like one way to do it. Yeah, it's just definitely do that. Like, and then you'll see who I'm playing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It's funny, Kevin Knapp, I saw him like 5 years ago in this like 150 cap room in New Orleans called the Dragon's Den.
Oh yeah, I played there.
And yeah. And they actually don't really do the night there anymore that we used to go to, but it was like the only place to kind of like have an underground house night when I was in school down there. So it was really cool seeing him and then being like, wait, other people know this guy. Like, I think Christian Martin played there too. Obviously you played there. But listen, I just want to say thank you for taking the time today. This is really great. You know, you have such an amazing story, and just looking forward to watching everything that you got going on in the future.
Yeah, it's cool to be here. Cool to talk. I'm excited to see the piece. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.